A cold wind sweeps across the fjords. The camera glides over icy water and broken ruins. They called them the long-haired kings, rulers said to descend from gods, prophets, and something older still. But what if the true origins of the Merovingian bloodline didn't begin in France, but in the frozen lands of the north? Long before Charlemagne, before Rome fell, whispers spoke of a prophecy, a northern lineage blessed by divinity and burdened by curse. Tonight, we follow that trail, from the halls of Frankish kings to the misty shores of Scandinavia. This is the story of a dynasty erased by the church and the prophecy they carried in their veins. Welcome to the Merovingians' Northern Prophecy, Bloodline Secrets from Scandinavia. Our story begins in the 5th century, as the Roman Empire collapsed and chaos spread across Europe. From the ashes rose a tribe of Franks, led by a young warlord named Merovec. Legends say he was born of 2 fathers, one human, one divine, a union between a queen and a mysterious sea creature said to come from beyond the North Sea. Thus began the line of the Merovingians, kings who claimed both mortal and supernatural descent. To their people, long hair symbolized sacred power. It was forbidden to cut it, for it was said their strength and legitimacy flowed through every strand. These were not ordinary rulers. They were living relics of an older world, a world where gods still walked among men. Merovec's descendants, most famously Clovis I, forged the first kingdom of the Franks, uniting Gaul under a single crown. By 508 CE, Clovis converted to Christianity, a move that secured his power, but sparked centuries of tension between pagan roots and church authority. The church crowned him their champion, but never forgot his bloodline's pagan whispers. Even as Christian symbols rose, Merovingian kings kept old traditions, sacred oaths sworn by rivers, rituals under moonlight, and the honoring of ancestral spirits. To the bishops, it was blasphemy. To the people, it was power. The dynasty stood between 2 worlds, divine right and forbidden legacy. But where did this power come from? Ancient Frankish songs tell of a northern mother, a sea-born spirit whose children would rule both land and wave. Some scholars trace this to Old Norse legends, perhaps to Njord, god of the sea, or his daughter Freya, goddess of fertility and love. Could the Merovingian bloodline have been tied to Scandinavian myth itself? In their sigils and seals, we find runic patterns, spirals, serpents, and tridents, resembling Viking symbols centuries before the Viking Age. Perhaps their roots ran deeper than even Rome dared to imagine. Far from the Frankish plains, the cold north kept its own secrets. In ancient Norse texts like the Ynglinga saga, kings were described as descendants of gods, Odin's blood flowing through royal veins. The parallels are uncanny: divine ancestry, sacred hair, and prophetic dreams of destiny. Could the Merovingians and the early Scandinavian dynasties share a common origin? Some historians, like the controversial Lawrence Gardner, suggested an ancient bloodline migration from the north through Germania into Gaul. If true, the Merovingians were not just kings of men, they were heirs of an ancient prophecy. Archaeologists have unearthed grave goods in northern France, runic amulets, serpent motifs, and Nordic-style jewelry dating centuries before the Viking Age. These symbols were not Frankish, they were Scandinavian in spirit. Even the Merovingian battle banners bore a serpent emblem, a mark of Odin's wisdom and Loki's cunning. It said Merovach himself came from beyond the sea, possibly a poetic hint at migration or alliance with Danish tribes. Across Europe, the sea was both a boundary and a bridge, carrying secrets from fjords to fields, and perhaps a prophecy too. In one fragmentary Norse legend, there is mention of the Golden Line, a dynasty destined to rise in the west after the fall of the gods. This prophecy eerily mirrors the Merovingian era, a time when the old gods faded and new faith took hold. Coincidence or connection? If the Merovingians truly bore the blood of the north, their survival wasn't just political, it was spiritual continuity. Through them, the last echo of the pagan age lived on in Christian Europe. But such a legacy could not go unchallenged for long. As the Merovingians grew in wealth and mystique, the church grew uneasy. Their bloodline, rumored to be divine, challenged the church's claim that only God could ordain kings. Bishops whispered of sorcery, of kings who ruled by occult rite, not holy law. They called them the sorcerer kings, rulers who held court with druids and priests alike. The church tolerated their power for centuries, but behind every alliance lay a blade, and eventually faith would become the weapon that destroyed them. By the 8th century, the Merovingians' enemies struck from within. Charles Martel and his son Pepin the Short, ambitious nobles from the Carolingian line, conspired with Rome to overthrow the old dynasty. Pepin sought legitimacy from the Pope, promising loyalty to the Church in exchange for a crown. In 751 CE, the last Merovingian king, Childeric III, was deposed, his hair cut short in a ritual humiliation. It was more than punishment, it was symbolic execution. With one act, their sacred power was severed, and a 1,000-year legacy was erased. The church rewrote the records. The Merovingians became Ido kings, mocked as weak and decadent. But archaeological finds, golden signet rings, seals, and royal edicts tell a different story. They were builders, patrons of art, and rulers of one of Europe's most stable kingdoms. Their memory was deliberately obscured, their tombs hidden, their names struck from chronicles. And yet, in the shadows of monasteries and forgotten cathedrals, the old blood still pulsed.
For centuries after their fall, rumors persisted that the Merovingian bloodlines survived, hidden within noble families across Europe. Medieval legends spoke of a secret king, a descendant who would one day return to claim his throne. Some claimed this bloodline merged with the Knights Templar, guardians of lost knowledge and ancient relics. Others whispered it carried the secret of sacred union, the divine feminine and masculine reborn. In the 12th century, the Templars built fortresses along routes once ruled by the Merovingians. Was it coincidence or protection of something far older. In southern France, near Rennes-le-Château, strange symbols adorn the stones: serpents, lilies, and stars. These are not random. They mirror Merovingian heraldry. Local tales claim a hidden lineage passed through priests and scholars, waiting for the northern star to rise again. Even modern historians have debated whether the Priory of Sion, mentioned in controversial texts like Holy Blood, Holy Grail, was built to protect that legacy. Fact or myth, one truth remains. The Merovingian name refuses to die. It lingers, like prophecy whispered through centuries of silence. From the fjords of Norway to the vineyards of France, the same symbols appear: the fleur-de-lis, the serpent, the star. Each one a clue, perhaps, to a forgotten lineage stretching back to the north. Some say the prophecy was never about one king, but about humanity remembering its divine origin. The Merovingians were not just rulers. They were reminders that every generation carries the spark of the sacred. And if their blood still flows, then perhaps their purpose has yet to be fulfilled. In a remote monastery archive in Scandinavia, an ancient text known as the Nordic Codex describes a vision of the royal line of the sea. It speaks of a king whose children would rule far from the fjords, their crowns bearing both moon and sun. The text was dismissed as poetic fantasy until scholars noticed its date, 5th century CE, the very age of Merovec. Could this be the prophecy that foretold the rise of the Merovingians? It hints that the blood of the north would one day mix with the south, and from it, a new world would be born. A union of ice and flame, of God and man. The Northern Prophecy, as it came to be known, predicted 3 ages of kings: the first to rule with swords, the second with faith, and the third with knowledge. Some believe this final age has yet to come, an age of awakening, when humanity would rediscover the truth of its origins. In secret societies across Europe, echoes of this prophecy still survive, in ritual, in art, in whispered oaths. The Merovingian line may have fallen, but its myth became a blueprint for rebirth, a silent promise that the divine within mankind can never be fully erased. And perhaps that is the real secret the Church feared. Not a bloodline of kings, but a bloodline of ideas, of wisdom older than dogma. The Merovingians symbolized the fusion of heaven and earth, a living testament that humans too could carry the divine spark. Their disappearance was not extinction, it was transformation. A seed buried deep beneath history, waiting for the right time to bloom. And perhaps that time is now. As the mists of Scandinavia roll across forgotten graves, the story of the Merovingians feels less like legend and more like memory. From sea-born kings to sainted rulers, their journey mirrors humanity's own search for meaning. They rose, they fell, and yet they left behind a whisker that will not fade. It is written in symbols, carved in stone, and carried in blood. Perhaps their true prophecy was not about kings, but about awakening, about remembering who we once were. Every time a historian uncovers a lost tomb or rune-carved relic, the past stirs again. The Merovingians remind us that history isn't just written, it's rewritten. And somewhere between faith and myth, between the church and the north, lies a truth too powerful to die. A truth carried not in crowns, but in consciousness. Because maybe the real northern prophecy was never about kings returning. It was about humanity remembering its divine origin. So tonight, as you drift asleep, imagine the long-haired kings, their crowns glinting beneath the northern lights. Their empire may be dust, their temples forgotten, but their legend still breathes through time. History tried to erase them. Faith tried to contain them. But the blood of the North remembers. And perhaps in dreams we still hear their whisper.